Was looking for the bigger pad, but this should work fine. They have a wider pad that actually fits perfectly in here. Just more surface area to push off of. Cool. Okay, first actually, and foremost, is you guys watching who tune in on my leg days. I appreciate you. But the viewership of my leg days versus my upper body days is like night and day. So a lot of you motherfuckers don't train legs or clearly don't like watching people train legs. So start watching my leg training videos. That being said, we're starting here. Well, we started with calves over there. I did like one of those straight leg calf presses, supersetted with a seated calf raise, as you'll see in the video. But I didn't go over the form or anything like that. 3 working sets for those each. Superset back-to-back, or compound set rather. We're starting here with this sort of hack squat machine. This kind of like half hack squat machine. I know most gyms, typically commercial gyms, will have this, at least I think, or they generally will have this machine over more of the actual traditional hack squats where it's, you know, resting on your shoulders. I've been actually liking this machine lately. I'm going to show you a few things that I do to set up this particular machine, which is the Atlantis machine, just to get more range of motion. So I use this back pad here, and I use this literally as a back pad on the back just to increase the depth, so I can have my starting position lower down, and also so I can get lower in the actual movement. And then I use this yoga block, and this is only because this machine, the way they designed it, I don't know what it is with the Atlantis machines, but the leg presses like this, the actual traditional hack squats like this, and this hack squats like this, where they literally cut this platform down, like in half, so you don't have much surface area to adjust your feet. So what I mean by that is, they literally remove the bottom part, and then they add this stupid little step here as if I'm gonna do calves on this, which is probably a good calf exercise, but I'm digressing a little bit. They remove this bottom part so I can't have my feet low on that platform. So I use this yoga block and I literally just wedge it in underneath like that. And all that does is it just gives me a little bit of a platform or support for my heels, because I literally have my toes just on this top platform. So without this yoga block, I'm floaty. Like my foot is literally floating in midair. So I have to use a lot more stabilizers to keep that foot level with the pad, which it's not a big deal because I'll be pressing through my toes primarily anyways, but having this yoga block underneath is just added support in the actual movement. We'll just do 1 warm-up set, no weight. I was like, I could have sworn I got way more range last week. I didn't realize that stopper was up. Cool. We got 1 more quick warm-up set that we're going to do with just a plate. And then we're going to get right into the 3 working sets on this movement. And again, we're keeping, like, nothing's changed for those of you watching. 8 to 12 reps to failure. I'm going to push it literally for every single set. So still a warm-up. Now, if you notice, I'm going to try to keep that form even when I go heavy. So I'm going slow, controlling that eccentric, and then exploding out of the bottom. So I'm basically thinking in my mind is I want to come down, sink down as deep as possible, create as much tension in my quads and my knees, and then just fire out of that hole, exploding to the top. And I'm going to try to mimic that regardless of how heavy we go. Obviously, the heavier we go, it's going to look like I'm fucking struggling and the reps are slow. I think because I feel kind of strong, for my first working set, I'm going to do 2 1/4 and then just go right up to 3 plates. Actually, I'm going to go right up to 3 plates right now. I think, if I remember correctly, I could do 4 plates on this. Doesn't matter. We'll try it. We'll see how we feel and feel how we see. Boom. 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 Okay, we're stop there. We're gonna go up to 4. I'm telling you, you guys don't train legs. I mean, those of you who don't even tune in on my leg days aren't even gonna see me say this anyways, or hear me say it. But you have small legs. And you wouldn't if you watched my videos. Let me give myself like another minute, I think, to really let my heart rate come down and my breathing come down. I've said this so many times, but like rest time, in my humble opinion, take as long as you want. Obviously, don't do things that are going to distract you. Like, don't go on your phone. Try to limit talking to people, although talking is helpful and healthy to socialize. But, you know, when you're here, you're focused and you don't want to just be distracted by other shit, because that 1 or 2 minutes that you're taking for rest can turn into easily, you know, 5 to 10 minutes for some people. And I'd be lying if I said that didn't happen to me. Come on. Oh. I think we're gonna go heavier. I think I got 10 minimum, maybe 12. I blacked out during that set, but I think we'll go to 5 and we'll try it. Feeling good. Feeling good. I don't think I've ever gotten or done 5 plates on this. So I think we're gonna go for 8 reps, 8 solid reps all the way down, touching this sled to the bottom and then exploding up. Obviously trying to control the weight as much as possible. But more importantly, I'm trying to keep every rep consistent. So I'm not like, I don't care about tempo. I'm not fixated on, I have to have 2 to 3 second negative. If I have a 1 second negative with a 1 second concentric, I'm 100% okay with that. I would rather that than to, and get further in the reps and push further than to not get as many, fail earlier because my tempo. Most of the studies suggest that a lot of the muscle growth, I don't know what's in my head right now. A lot of the muscle growth happens on the concentric. So in other words, you're dealing with mechanical tension, and all that really means is you want to push the weight as close to failure as possible, to the point where you have this involuntary slowing of the concentric. So you're not just purposely slowing down the rep, it's actually involuntary in the actual body. So your muscles are literally like, I can't fucking push this any longer. So you actually have this involuntary slowing of that concentric as you push. That's literally my focus for all movements, but especially this. I'm not worried about the eccentric in terms of slowing it right down actively. Now this is gonna be the last set, and I'm gonna go right to failure on this. The form for this is gonna be the same for every pressing movement that you do, with one caveat for this machine in particular. As you notice, I'm having a more narrow stance. The only reason is because that yoga block is so narrow. So I'm literally just stepping the width of the yoga block, which I'd prefer if my feet were slightly wider. But the issue again is this platform. That's my limiting factor, is the fact that for whatever reason, Atlantis liked to move that bottom platform bar, which they should have just kept, in my opinion. So I'd like to have my feet a little wider, like shoulder width, but for this case, I'm having them narrow. And then I'm still trying to create as much contact with the middle of my foot, but because my toes are primarily on this platform, I'm pressing through like the ball of my foot. So if anything, I'm pressing through here, right up top here. That's just where the contact is for the most part. This pad, this yoga block, obviously is giving and it's squishy. So I don't want to press through the center or through my well, through the center, because if I press through the middle of my foot, it'll actually go into my heel, and then I start to have, you know, an unbalanced sort of surface to press off of. So I don't like that. And then lastly, keeping an upright posture the entire time. I don't want to lean too far forward. So I'm being as upright as possible. I'm driving my hips into this back pad the entire time. And then when I'm pressing, I'm literally focused on sliding that foot or feet up this platform like I'm doing a leg extension. So as I push, I'm focused on just extending and pulling this knee down, squeezing the quad. Last set. Now, everyone says last set, best set. My mind is like, fuck you, dude. This is gonna be the worst set. Come on. That's it. That's what we want. We want that slow grind of a rep. I probably could have tried for one more, but at that point, I'm just pinning myself in the bottom of the machine. And sometimes it's not worth it. Especially this one, it's very tight in the bottom. All right, guys, we're gonna move on. We're gonna do something completely different today. I don't think I've showed you Bulgarian split squats with dumbbells. So for the sake of just teaching, and because I haven't done them in a while, we're gonna do those right now. Bulgarian split squats, we're doing them on this decline bench. A few reasons. One, no one really uses this in the gym, so I'm not getting in anyone's way. But two, it has these leg pads at the bottom here, which is actually perfect. And well, now it's the perfect height for resting your leg up, because you want to set your back leg up on a surface or a bench, not too high, but high enough where as you come down in the movement, you're not smacking your knee off the ground. Okay. So having it, low enough, I should say, not high enough, low enough where you're not smacking your knee off the ground, but not too high where you're losing stability in the movement either. Now, a few ways you can go about this. One, we can hit it with more of a glute focused. Okay. We can hit it with more of a quad focus, or we can do kind of like a hybrid in between approach. And I think today, for the sake of the video, because I don't really feel like setting things up too much, I don't feel like looking for the ramp or the wedge underneath my foot. We're going to just focus primarily on like a half quad, half glute focus. So if I'm really upright with my torso, like I've mentioned many times, you're going to be targeting way more quad, because what you're doing is you're minimizing your hip flexion or the angle at your hip, and you're hopefully increasing knee flexion. So the angle of your knee. For today's purpose, I want the angle of my hip and the angle of my knee to be pretty much identical. Okay. Just to show you what that looks like. If I want to target more quad, if I'm upright, ideally I'd want to use a wedge underneath my foot, like underneath my heel, because that would give me the greatest amount of knee flexion anyways. But to target more quad, I'm going to have an upright posture the entire time. And then as I come down, I'm pushing knees forward. Okay. If I want to target both quad and glute sort of evenly or a bit more balanced, then I'm just going to slightly lean my torso forward. So that way my hip and knee angle kind of match. And then lastly, if I want to target more glute and less quad, all I'm thinking about is pulling my hip down and back, keeping my knee around 90 degrees or my shin straight up in the air. And I'm leaning forward the whole time. This is creating a greater angle at my hip and less at my knee. But again, for today's video, we're kind of keeping it balanced. So hopefully that jargon and malarkey made sense. One thing we are going to use, we are going to do dumbbell. And I am using this for stability and support. A lot of people say when they do dumbbells, their balance is completely off. If your gym has these preset barbells, just grab one and use it kind of as a staff or something to help with your balance. So all I really use it for is literally just to rest on. Okay. So if I'm holding a dumbbell in this hand or whatever hand, as I come down, I'm just using this just for stability. so I'm not falling all over the place and I have something to brace against. Okay. That sucked. Bulgarian split squats are such a love-hate. I think for everybody. They're great because they work well. They suck because you have to do it twice. For the second set, I'm counting that as a working set, by the way. I don't care what you guys say, if I went to failure or not. That's a working set for me. I am gonna go heavier on the next two, and I'm probably actually gonna use wrist wraps to grip the weight, so I'm not focused so much on my grip in the actual movement. Oh. Now, obviously, the issue with single arm dumbbell Bulgarian split squats, the heavier you go, because you're doing one arm at a time, you're loading one side. That entire side is just lit up from your shoulder all the way down to your foot. As you start to fatigue, the other things that become a limiting factor, not just your grip, but your core can become a limiting factor. So I'm finding my core is shit. My core gives out before my actual leg does, but then it's a cascade of events. The minute this starts giving out, then I lose stability, and then I just get exhausted very quickly. So that's the other limiting factor. But I'm just showing you, this is kind of how I go about doing single leg. I don't love it. I mean, like I said, this is a love-hate, but Bulgarians in general are a love-hate. But if I were to do them, I like doing them on the Smith machine, because I find the Smith machine, you have much greater stability, and the loading of it is actually down center, right? Because you can have that bar resting on your back, evenly distributed. Do them on Smith. But if you're gonna do dumbbell, this is the best thing you have for stability next to holding on to an actual rack, and then obviously doing them in Smith. For the form, all I'm thinking about is trying to keep my torso as stable as possible. I don't want to be floating around in my core or moving around too much, being off balance. As the fatigue sets in, you're going to be incredibly off balance. So try to be as stable and rigid as possible through this entire movement. Now, in terms of my foot, I'm creating even contact through my foot the entire time. Even though that weight is offset to one side of my body, I don't want to be rolling out onto the outside of my foot. So like all my pressing movements, for me, what works for me is I like to pronate my foot inward and almost trying to spread my foot around the ground, or on the ground, sorry, as much as possible, almost trying to touch the arch to the ground to create as much surface area. That's going to give me the greatest amount of stability and allow me to generate as much force through the movement. And then other than that, again, just using this as a brace, trying to be not upright, because again, I'm trying to match the angles, but I'm not nitpicky about that. I'm just going down to what feels comfortable. So again, don't get too caught up in the angles of shit. I know I teach it, but I teach it for more or less just optics and to visualize what's going on and how to get the most out of your movement. But don't get too nitpicky in the actual angle, like, oh, I'm not far enough down. You know, at the end of the day, you do what works for your body, but the only way to know is by trying different positions. So sorry if that sounded kind of contradictory. And another thing too is I'm trying to go down as deep as possible. As you see, I'm literally focused on that stretch the whole way. So if anything, I'm more concerned about the stretch than coming up the whole way. Oh, getting close. Good thing I put on cologne. Spritz myself with a bit of perfume because I knew you guys were gonna get a little close. Don't want to smell bad. I made a little error. I think next time I'm going to start with my right. My right definitely felt weaker. I definitely was failing earlier. My right side was trash. I'm out of breath though. That's it here. Done with that. We're going to move on. We got final thing. We're going to do that standing hamstring curl superset with leg extensions. So I will see you there. Okay. We did this last time. For those of you that tuned in. For those of you that didn't tune in, watch the last video. No, I'm kidding. So we're gonna do this standing hamstring curl. I've been liking this one. Again, just to change things up. We're not doing a warm-up set, but we are doing a superset where I'm gonna do both legs and then immediately into leg extensions, like minimal rest. 3 working sets total. Last thing, you know what? Let's just get into it. And then I'll explain it probably for the last set. Yeah. This is the last exercises in the workout. And this is the most important part because this is the time where most people tend to fall off and start going on their phone. The energy starts draining out of them. They get exhausted and they kind of get mentally checked out. But in my opinion, and look, I'm not perfect. Like I do that too, but it's good to remind yourself to continue to stay focused through the whole workout. This is the one time in the day that you give to yourself to get better and to get stronger. So don't go on your phone. Don't take too long of rest. Don't get into conversations with people. Just focus on executing and finishing the workout to the best of your ability at the highest level that you can. So we got 2 more working sets here. Okay. Full stack. Told you we're pushing it. We're not fucking around. Just staying focused. Okay, third and final set. For the form, as you notice, I'm draping myself over top of that pad. I'm using it as a chest pad, as opposed to being upright. The reason being is I'm sort of emulating a seated hamstring curl, right? So by me leaning forward, I'm creating more flexion at my hip. Therefore, I'm actually lengthening the hamstring. So I'm actually targeting the hamstring in more of a lengthened state, similar to a seated hamstring curl. I just like it. I feel stable. And then there's a crossbar actually on this. If you come over here, we'll just quickly pan to it. You might even see it. That crossbar, I'm reaching over and I'm grabbing it and I'm pulling myself into it to create as much stability. And then I'm driving, for every rep, I'm driving my knee and my quad into this pad for every single rep. I'm not pulling my knee up. I'm not using my glute to extend the hip or extend this leg past the hip. I'm literally focused on driving almost in like this. So I'm actually just thinking about bringing my calf to my hamstring and squeezing it, coming down the full way, getting that deep stretch, including partial reps. Come on. Oh, fuck. Okay. Last set here. Now, the great thing with this Prime Fitness, two things. One, I can adjust this past the actual one, which is fucking awesome. So I can get even deeper range of motion. So for your machine, it's a regular leg extension. Obviously, adjust it to the lowest setting. Two, I can play around with this cam and I can actually adjust the resistance profile. I show this many times, but I have it set to 3. The first set I did it at 1, which is fine. 1 is like your conventional resistance profile where it's just heaviest through the mid-range. So this actually, by having it set to 3, makes it heavier through the beginning range, which is perfect because that's where my quads are going to be the most stretched. And then I set that backrest up all the way back, just to increase the length in my rectus femoris, which is the quad muscle that runs down the center of your leg and kind of gives you that split. So that actually crosses the hip joint. So by leaning back and reducing the hip angle, you're actually going to be, oh my gosh, I can't think, losing train of thought. You're going to be lengthening that muscle a lot more. Let's get focused. Last set. Come on. Oh God, that's it, guys. Look, I want to see the views on my leg training start to go up. So share it with your friends or family, or just watch it 100 times each. That being said, though, as always, thank you guys so much. If you made it this far in the video, you guys are real ones. I appreciate you so much. I appreciate all your comments and questions and support that you guys give me on my social media. Like always, continue to work hard, continue to be diligent, be intentional with your movements, and don't forget to take it easy. I will see you on the next video. Thanks, guys.